Hello Harry, so thanks for coming along. Appreciate sitting down with me today in our Clerkenwell space. So tell us about who you are, your company, what you do.
Thanks Miles, thanks for the invite. So I'm Harry from Umbra. I'm Business Development Director, and at Umbra we're designers and manufacturers of blinds, and specifically electric and automated shading is what we specialise in.
Good, okay, so my name is Miles. I'm the Innovation Director at Mount Lighting. So we focus particularly on the workplace niche, so design and build and pure design. We do a little bit in education, but it's mostly on the workplace, and we've deliberately designed our product range to fit around that particular niche, so we have everything that a workplace project would need. And my role, particularly as Innovation Director, is around how we present to the marketplace, so there's some marketing strategy and product development and innovation, which is where this concept of Strata DI comes in, the total light control concept that we're going to talk about. Okay, so why don't you tell us the story about how we actually started this whole conversation, how we began the conversation?
Well, I think it actually might have started with you messaging me.
Yeah, but I think it was a LinkedIn post that you triggered from the beginning of the conversation. Was a post from you that triggered it off, and then our message, and I think that's kind of how it got started. But the interesting thing was that the post really directly addressed what we've ended up kind of getting around as a problem, which is the fact that lighting and blind control happens remarkably independently, actually.
I know,
the two things are not joined together, which is quite daft when you think about it, because at the end of the day they are both light control, but they're just different types of lighting. So I think that's kind of what triggered me to reach out to you, because the post aligned really directly with where I was thinking, and I guess you probably thought the same.
Yeah, well, I think if I remember rightly, I just remember thinking, well, this is a guy from a lighting company reaching out to me, and as far as I've always been concerned, like, lighting is one thing, whether it's natural light or LED light, it's all one thing. Now I know we just do the control of the natural light piece, but lighting in general has always interested me, and so after your message I was like, yeah, this could be interesting, it's worth talking to this guy. Let's see if he's interested in also talking about natural light control, then let's see where this could go, because in all honesty, that often isn't the case. From both directions, like generally blinds companies don't really want to talk about LED lights, and lighting companies don't really want to talk about blinds. But actually, light is one thing in a space, isn't it? You're controlling that one element.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And we see it adding value, if you like, to our lighting package, because at the end of the day, from a principle point of view, we believe that the free source of light, the best quality of light, is the sun. And to start from that as a default perspective and then blend in the LED electric light into that is the right way to approach it, rather than simply turning the light on, and you might have too much and you just leave it too bright, especially when the blinds are down. So another really important concept that you explained to me at the beginning is the discomfort trigger thing. So do you want to just cover off on that? So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what you've just said about blending in is, but we'll come back to that in a minute, it's really important. The whole discomfort trigger thing is, with blinds, what tends to happen is the blinds will start by being up, someone's in a space, the sunlight's in their eyes, it's too bright, there's discomfort there, so they get up and they close the blinds, generally manually, in most workplaces. And then they put the blinds down, they're now comfortable, they're back at their desk, and when the time of day moves on, the sun moves round, and it's not actually in their eyes anymore, but it doesn't occur to them because there's not actually a discomfort trigger to go and open the blinds again. And instead, what generally happens is, if you've got an automatic lighting system in there of any kind of dimmable system, is the LED lights are then just going to compensate for the reduced daylight coming in. It's no longer super bright outside, but the blinds are down, so the lights just get brighter and
stay that way.
Stay that way, exactly, until someone comes along, maybe a cleaner, maybe it's in their list of things that they do is open the blinds once a week or something. But the fact is, the blinds actually need to be moving with the sun. Like, otherwise you're trying to kind of address a dynamic problem with basically a static solution.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So explain then how this concept fits in with your other existing control packages, because obviously this is a part of what you do, it's not all of what you do. So that this concept of total light control, which we've called Strata DI, explain how that fits in with your other control packages as they stand at the moment.
So Strata DI is Strata Dynamic Illumination. So we have a brand called Strata. What we found is that as Umbra, we supply a lot of different control packages from a variety of different manufacturers for controlling blinds. And we found that people don't tend to care as much about what the control package is as what it does, which I guess makes sense. You care about the results, right? So we found that there's benefit in having this overall brand of Strata. We have Strata wired packages, Strata wireless, Strata digital, that all refer to just simply how the blinds are being communicated with. And so it made complete sense to add Strata DI into sort of under that umbrella. And so the Strata DI really exclusively refers to this collaboration of unified control, which I think you're quite passionate about, the topic of unified blind and lighting control, aren't you?
Absolutely, and that's why it's probably a good point to touch on the benefits to the end user, because at the end of the day, it's the end user that gets the benefit of the collaboration. And it's also an important point to mention that we chose to put this total light control concept onto the Kasambi wireless platform. And there's several reasons for that. One is that Kasambi is very well developed in the lighting control space anyway, so there's a big open ecosystem that any lighting manufacturer can build onto, which can control the lighting in all sorts of ways, colour tuning, standard dimming, even RGB colour control if necessary. So as a platform to build on, that was already very successful in the lighting control space, but there were blind control applications, not necessarily very high quality ones in comparison to the lighting, but there was an existing structure to build on. And it's really important for the collaboration that we have a solid platform to build on. So what we've ended up doing is adding blind control capability to that platform together. We'll talk about the sensor in a minute, but using that platform to make it seamless so that we're not trying to join a lighting control package with a blind control package and ram them together. We're actually using a platform that already exists and extending its capability, but we're still using that single source of quality control to do both things.
Basically, the issue there is you've got a blinds contractor, you've got a lighting contractor, or whoever's delivering on the lighting, you've got a main contractor, you've probably got M&E contractor, you've got certainly an interior designer looking at both aspects. And the problem is they tend to get to site at different times, the lighting and the blinds, and then it's like, well, who's actually going to make these two things talk to each other? And the lighting guys are going, well, we haven't allowed for that in our package, and the blinds guys are going, well, we haven't allowed for that either. And the client, even if the end client really, really wanted it, if it hasn't been agreed entirely up front and made to work and planned out and scoped out and allowed for in somebody's package, who's actually going to do the integration and run all the cables necessary, then it just becomes too difficult to do generally. Yeah. And the contractor's going, we're on a time schedule here, we've got to be done like on deadline, and we can't be having you two guys squabbling about who's going to do this integration. So guess what, we're just going to cut it out. The blinds are going to stand on their own, lighting's going to stand on its own, and we're just back to the usual status quo again.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think typically the packages operate on site at different points, which means joining the two together is harder than it seems. And you've mentioned to me before about blinds coming right at the end, so they're classified along with the FF&E basically, aren't they?
Well, it's N10 in the MBS spec, so it's literally like, it's like saying you don't need your blinds until you're putting your desks in, which, as you know, there's no good thinking about, certainly not electric blinds at that point, because it's too late.
It's far too late, yeah. So considering it a much earlier phase, and using the Kasambi platform to remove the need for the integration in the first place. So you don't have to have an extra layer. The whole thing's built onto a single platform to start with, means that the ability to combine the two things is greatly improved. And that's why we've chosen that platform. A, it's a single platform, and B, the fact that it's wireless means you haven't got a lot of extra administrative burden in terms of infrastructure in the start point to actually get those two systems to function with each other, because it's on a single platform. So I think that's a really important part of how it adds value to the end user, because it's a thought through process having been considered at an appropriate phase of the project, and considered as total light control. So the end user is getting something which is sunlight first, and I think that's a really important principle, because sunlight is the most healthy, even when it comes through a window, and to use that as a starting point, and then you blend in the LED lighting on top of it if you haven't got enough, is the right way to approach it. It's important also that the user has overall control. So we've regarded that as a principle as well, haven't we?
Absolutely.
That it can also be overridden. But why don't you talk about how intelligent the sensor is and how the sensor functions as well? Because we've done a bit of customized development work on the sensing specifically, haven't we? External sensing.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. So it's specifically an external sensor, specifically for the blinds. So the main thing that it really does is it, instead of traditional sensors where they just go, right, your blinds need to be either open or closed because it's either too bright or it's not too bright, this sensor actually measures, it's a lens-based sensor, there's a camera in it, so it actually measures glare and also the angle of the glare in relation to the workspace within the room. So the really important thing there is it's actually going to be optimizing where the blinds need to be, rather than just saying you need to be fully down to block out all the light. And by doing that, you're actually balancing daylight with your LED lighting in a much, much better way. So you're actually getting to a point where you're allowing, your blinds actually might only need to be down, 70%, let's say. So you're still allowing natural light in, but you're just cutting out the glare and making it a comfortable working environment. And I think that's really important, because that's part of what you're doing, right, with your LED lighting, is you have to look at a ton of different factors to make sure it's a comfortable working environment. But I think the thing that sets Mount apart is you're not just looking at what do we provide, the LED fittings, and what do they do. You're actually going, okay, what about the biggest source of natural light right there at the window? How do we incorporate that into our control as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the end user benefit of that is that you're always starting with the sunlight and feeding the electric light into it. And what that means is that if the glare then goes away, the sun goes behind a cloud or whatever, then the blind automatically then moves back up again. So the absence of a discomfort trigger is not a problem anymore, because you're defaulting back to using the natural source whenever you can.
Yeah.
That's really the big benefit to the end user. So I think that's a really important point to make.
Yeah.
We've talked a bit about the benefits for end users, but there's obviously benefit for the two companies as well.
Yeah.
Where do you see that sitting in terms of value for your Umbra customers, and how easy it is for you to deliver that value? Just talk us through what it's worth to you.
Yeah, so I think for us, being able to actually deliver not just a product, i.e. not just blinds, we're not just selling blinds, we're actually selling an environment that is good to work in, saves you money, and that actually complies with a lot of the building standards that are currently being required of existing and new buildings. And I think that has allowed us as a company to offer those benefits to not just the end client, so not just the people who are occupying the building, but also the people who are maybe running or operating the building, but also to the people who are actually specifying and designing that building. And I think that's something that's really important for us, is being able to take it to the next level. It's like, it's more than just a blind for your window. It's like, no, this is actually a solution that combines with your LED lighting, allows us to provide a complete light control package that does tick a lot of the boxes for the WELL standard. Gets a lot of gets BREEAM credits. There's the Fitwell standard as well. There's at least 2 points in there that relate specifically to glare control and operable shading. And being able to comply with those and deliver on a great work environment for the people who are ultimately going to be occupying it, super important. And then there's the bottom line, which is saving money, which we all know, in the real world, that
is actually what drives a lot of the spending.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point about it not just being end users, but also the specifiers is important, because the specification market is actually taking some of the burden of the client education piece in this. So we're really helping the specifiers to educate their clients and specify something that works for the client in the real world. It's a complex market that we're operating in, with multi different levels and different incentives that aren't always helpful to good outcomes. But really positioning it intelligently, as we've tried to do, in a way that appeals to the end user, for sure, in terms of the outcome that they're getting, but then makes it a specifiable proposition that doesn't require disparate parties to be kind of squished together. Operating on that single platform basis again, we're putting the skills of the two companies together in a way that makes it easy for those specifiers to actually put it on a spec as a thing that could be clearly defined with clear benefits. So I think that's an important part of the way we've structured it as well, and that's a good reason for giving it a name and a specific thing with targeted technology that does a really tightly defined outcome to the project. And I think that's really important. It allows us to get really deeper developing our relationships with specifiers so they understand that we're thoughtful about what we're doing. Like you described, it's not just a box shifting exercise of selling blinds or selling luminaires. It's a much wider, more intelligent, more thoughtful perspective that approaches the project from just a wider view and isn't just kind of selfishly focused on one's own specific thing, but thinks about the end user and then ties it in with other systems as well. So there's for sure benefits. So talk us through then where you see it going from here. How's the customer reaction been in your conversations up to now?
Yeah, so I've spoken to sustainability consultants, smart building technology consultants, architects, interior designers, quite a wide range of people who will have an impact on this. And almost without exception, when you explain the concept to them, pardon the pun, but you can see there's a light bulb moment. It's just like, yes, okay, I get it. It makes complete sense. It's kind of like well, duh, yeah, it does make sense. But the challenge that I think they would all also agree is being able to actually deliver that, because we have to be thinking about it early enough in the conversation process. So if it's a new build or if it's a retrofit scenario, you've got to be thinking about your blinds and your lights together, thinking about them as one package that you can then plan for appropriately. And I think that's really important to being able to deliver something like this successfully.
I do agree with what you said, and I think the benefit for us as well is it allows us to get into the marketplace and get into the project at a relatively earlier phase. Because of that thought process that you've explained, it needs to happen at an appropriate time during REBA stage, probably 2, worst case 3. And that's important because we want to be involved with the bigger decisions that are being made as part of the project. At the end of the day, you were talking about well standard and BREEAM. These things should be applied right at the beginning. Otherwise, it's much, much harder. You can't retrofit the well standard onto a project. It just doesn't work. So you have to be thinking about it early. And this develops our specifier offering and allows us to be included in the conversation, if you like, at a much earlier phase, and allows us to embed ourselves into the project and provide value to the project at an earlier phase. So that's important for us as well. So that certainly
Makes
helps.
sense.
Yeah. So how would you envisage the next steps? What could a specifier or a designer who's watching this video, how could they take this forward if they like the concept but they're not aware of the next steps? How would you advise them to proceed? What problems do you see them being confronted with at the moment?
Sure. So I think one of the challenges right now is that we see specifications coming through that just simply say things like blinds to be integrated with BMS, which doesn't really tell us anything in terms of what are the outcomes, what do you want to achieve from that. And I think probably in all honesty, it's maybe because the specifier isn't 100% clear themselves on either what is wanted from the client or because they're not even sure of what the capabilities are. I would recommend talking to someone such as you or myself. You could also go onto the MBS platform and you could search for Strata DI, and you could actually pull the specification details for that package directly from there. But I would say if you're not clear at this point on what you actually want to get out of it, but you understand and agree with the concept, I would say speak to one of us and have that conversation so that we can understand in both directions, A, what's possible, and B, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And then together, we can actually build a spec that is actually deliverable and that can be quoted correctly right from the start.
Yep.
Because that is, of course, the other downside of just having a generic blinds integrated with BMS is you'll go out to tender and you'll get 5, 10 different versions of people's interpretations of that.
Or you'll get some useless PC sums that tell you nothing.
Correct.
Which is another very frequent problem. So yeah, I think we have in mind to run some joint CPDs on this, don't we?
Yeah.
So that will be an easy thing to sign up for as well, is something that actually delves into maybe project specifics, but even if it was just covering this subject in more detail in a CPD format, we're very happy to visit the specification community and just provide that level of education and take some questions, because there'll be things that we haven't necessarily thought of. I mean, we've taken this to some big architect practices and interior designers, and we've fleshed out the concept in quite some detail, but there's always extra things that float to the surface. And we want to be at the cutting edge of this conversation. So to be presenting those joint CPDs and taking those questions and working them through in real project scenarios is really the next step for this concept. So we definitely encourage the specification community to come and have those conversations and tell us what you guys need.
Yeah.
Because then we can bring it to life, and as we're developing that technology and making it real and improving it, we can feed that specification community feedback into that process and actually improve the technology as we're going along. So that's a good next step.
Good.
We would really encourage people to come and visit us and engage on this topic, wouldn't we? Because we want to develop the concept further than we've got. We want to use specific projects to develop it on. It's got some real value. But we'd encourage people to come and talk to us about it, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. And I think you've got a fantastic space here in Clerkenwell. I would say to anybody, make sure you come here, visit Mount Lighting, and learn more about Strata DI.
Yep, look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much, Harry. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.